I am AI avatar of CA Ratan Mundra. IFSCA has introduced an important framework explaining how investment advisors operating in IFSC can provide implementation services to their clients. Earlier, the regulations already allowed advisors to provide such services, but there was no detailed operational guidance explaining the proper execution mechanism. To remove this uncertainty, IFSCA released a consultation paper, invited public comments from stakeholders, and finally issued a detailed circular on the 12th of May 2026. This framework now clarifies the permitted execution routes, compliance responsibilities, and investor protection requirements for implementation services within the IFSC ecosystem. Implementation services refer to assisting clients in executing investment advice provided by an investment advisor. In simple terms, after an advisor gives a recommendation, implementation services help the client complete the actual investment transaction through an approved execution channel. For example, if a client receives advice to invest in a foreign listed ETF or another financial product, the advisor may guide the client through the execution process using the permitted IFSC route. IFSCA has clarified that implementation services must remain connected to advisory activity and cannot become an unrelated execution business. Before this framework, investment advisors faced uncertainty regarding how implementation services could practically be offered under IFSC regulations. Although the regulations allowed such services, the detailed operational procedures were not clearly specified. Many stakeholders, including advisors, broker-dealers, platforms, and compliance professionals, requested clarification from IFSCA regarding execution channels and compliance expectations. This framework was therefore introduced to reduce ambiguity, create a standardized structure for implementation services, and strengthen transparency within the IFSC financial ecosystem. The framework also supports investor protection by ensuring that execution activities follow regulated and documented channels. IFSCA has classified implementation services into three categories based on the type of financial product involved. For financial products listed on foreign stock exchanges, implementation services must be routed through a global access provider or an introducing broker operating in IFSC. For products listed on recognized IFSC stock exchanges, execution must happen through a member of the recognized stock exchange. For unlisted financial products, advisors may enter into formal arrangements with regulated foreign platforms or asset management companies. This structure creates a product-based compliance framework and ensures that implementation activities remain aligned with approved execution channels. For investment advisors, the framework provides greater clarity, but also introduces important compliance responsibilities. Advisors must now classify every advised product correctly and ensure that implementation happens through the approved channel. This means advisors will need proper agreements with global access providers, introducing brokers, exchange members, or foreign platforms wherever applicable. They must also maintain client disclosures, consent records, and conflict management procedures. Although the framework increases documentation and operational responsibilities, it also creates stronger regulatory certainty and may improve client confidence in IFSC-based advisory businesses. The final circular significantly benefits global access providers and introducing brokers operating within IFSC. For foreign listed products, advisors must now route implementation through these IFSC-based channels. One major change in the final framework is the addition of introducing brokers as a permitted execution route. Earlier drafts referred only to global access providers. This change creates additional flexibility for advisors and opens new business opportunities for IFSC intermediaries. However, these entities must also strengthen compliance processes, onboarding systems, execution reporting, and coordination mechanisms to support investment advisors effectively and maintain regulatory standards. For products listed on IFSC exchanges, implementation services must be routed through exchange members. This gives IFSC broker-dealers and exchange participants a more structured role in the advisory ecosystem and may support greater liquidity within IFSC markets. For unlisted products, investment advisors may work with foreign regulated platforms and asset management companies. However, advisors must conduct proper due diligence regarding regulatory status, operational controls, investor protection mechanisms, fees, and grievance handling systems before entering into such arrangements. This creates new opportunities but also increases the importance of compliance and counterparty verification. IFSCA has clearly emphasized that implementation services must remain optional for clients. Clients should never be forced to execute investments through a particular partner or execution route suggested by the advisor. Investment advisors must ensure that client agreements and disclosures clearly explain that implementation services are optional. Advisors should avoid any language or practice that creates pressure on clients to use a specific execution partner. This principle protects investor choice, reduces conflicts of interest, and improves transparency within advisory relationships. Proper disclosures and informed client consent are therefore extremely important under the new framework. The final circular introduced several important changes compared to the earlier draft framework. The most significant change is the inclusion of introducing brokers as permitted execution channels for foreign listed products. This increases flexibility for investment advisors operating in IFSC. Another important clarification relates to IFSC listed products. The draft referred to broker-dealers registered with IFSCA, while the final circular uses the broader expression member of the recognized stock exchange. However, IFSCA did not fully accept stakeholder requests for unrestricted global execution flexibility. The final framework continues to remain channel-specific and strongly connected to IFSC market infrastructure. Investment advisors should immediately review their implementation structures and compliance systems to align with the new framework. Existing agreements with brokers, platforms, and service providers should be updated wherever necessary. Client agreements, disclosures, conflict management policies, and consent procedures should also be revised to ensure compliance with the optionality principle. Advisory and operations teams must be trained to avoid coercive practices and maintain proper documentation. Overall, the IFSCA framework is a major step toward formalizing implementation services within IFSC. It creates regulatory clarity, strengthens investor protection, and supports IFSC market infrastructure while ensuring that implementation services remain transparent, compliant, and client-focused. Moon Sales and Management Consultants LLP, a trusted partner for SEZ and IFSC excellence. A pioneer in establishing SEZ and IFSC units within GIFT City and India, delivering end-to-end IFSC setup, operational support, and handling compliances, risk management. Renowned for deep expertise in regulatory approvals, capital markets, fund management, insurance, finance company, foreign university, BAT, and ancillary regulations and fintech. Expertise in customs clearance for aircraft and ship procurement, leasing, GST, DSPF, IFSCA. Comprehensive support covering registration, reporting, and regulatory transitions, ensuring ring fencing, transparency, and global compliance standards. Join our network, scan the QR codes below to stay connected with us.